Hi, this is State Senator Ed Kennedy, and I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Beacon Hill Buzz. And I'm very happy today to have as my guest the Chancellor of UMass Lowell, Julie Chen. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Senator.
But you've been the Chancellor now for a little over a year, but for a lot of people in Lowell that would be watching this show, they maybe don't know that much about you. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I very much have enjoyed all the roles that I've had. I loved being a professor, loved being in the classroom and in the lab, and have loved being in charge of the research and economic development for the university. So I was not really looking to change, but when Chancellor Maloney announced that she was going to be retiring, some folks started to come talking and knocking and, about the opportunities to have an impact in this role. And so that's really the first time that I even thought about being a chancellor or president.
What do you see as the campus's greatest strengths, or the university's greatest strengths, I guess?
There's many, so it's hard to pick out one.
Yeah.
I have to say it's really a lot about the DNA of who we are. So, we are, sometimes people use the term scrappy or gritty or whatever, but it's this sense that we're all in this together. And we all have this combined mission to help, as a public research university, a population of students that are going to be successful and then go on to be part of this great UMass Lowell network that we see throughout the world. So I think it's that everybody is here because they want to be part of that mission and helping make that successful.
How about the COVID pandemic? Is that still affecting the campus? And you made it through like everybody else, but how is it now for the university?
Yeah, and we did make it through, thankfully. Again, an example of where everybody pitched in together to try to figure that out. And obviously, the federal government support was critical because of the lost revenue during that time. We are still having a bit of, not just a bit, impact from that. And the most immediate thing that we see is our junior and senior classes are low still, right? Those were the classes that were low because of the pandemic. And so as those go through, those numbers mean our overall enrollments of the 4 years of classes is lower than we would like it to be.
Okay.
Our incoming this year's, the group that's moving in and over the next week or so, and the prior class are showing rebound. So back up to where we were prior to pandemic, but we still have the junior and senior classes that are lower in enrollments than we had before. And, great thing, we just graduated, not just, I guess, in May, we graduated the biggest class ever, which is wonderful, but that's a lot of students that have left that we haven't quite caught up with,
right,
in terms of total enrollments.
If I recall last year, too, there was an event at the JFK Plaza for the new students when they were coming in. Are there plans to do that again, or is that...
Good question. I think we're going to continue with sort of that theme of whether it's September in the city or trying to figure out how to get more people in the city to come to university events and activities, sports, arts, music, lectures, and to get more of the faculty, staff, and students at the university to be aware of things that are happening around the city.
Co-op and paid internships are a priority for you. Could you explain why?
At my inauguration, one of the things I said is I promised every undergraduate incoming that they would have at least one paid career-connected experience. We hope that they will have multiple, but we want them all to be thinking they should at least look for one, and frankly, as early as possible. Why? There's a couple of reasons. One is because we know, I don't know about you, but when I was 17, I had no idea what I wanted to do, right? I mean, you end up in a major because someone says, oh, you should try that, right? You have no idea what kind of job it is or what kind of career it's going to lead to. And so what we found is students that have that initial career experience start to form a better sense of what they want to do. And as important, they start to develop a professional network of people and mentors and folks that can help suggest things and open doors to them. So we want our students to have that better initial start to their professional network and to really understand what it is that they want to do. And that doesn't mean necessarily to a very specific job, but do I like working on a computer? Would I rather be on a manufacturing floor? Do I want to be in a large company or a startup company? Those are types of things that the students can get a better sense of if they get these various experiences. The other piece that makes a difference, we notice when they come back from those experiences, they're much more focused in the classroom.
Yeah.
Because suddenly those lecturers and those homework assignments don't seem like they're just, generic.
Right.
They understand what it is that they're trying to learn and why they're trying to learn that. So they do better in the classroom, and we've seen it. They get a lot more job offers when they're ready to graduate. So those are all reasons that we really want to focus on this, making sure all of our undergrads and eventually our graduate students have those opportunities.
Tell us what an R1 university is, how close UMass Lowell is to achieving that status,
Yeah.
and what it would mean for the campus.
So R1 is shorthand for Research One institution. And sometimes I like to say it's similar to the equivalent of being a Division I athletics university. It indicates that you're at that top echelon of research universities in the country. I think there's maybe 4% of the universities in the country are considered R1. And it has to do with both the quantity and the quality of research that you do at the university. Why do we think that's important? Because we think it's important for our student population to have the opportunity to do really top research, because it instills in them the idea that they can be involved in discovering new knowledge, in creating new policy, in developing new content, and not just sort of doing, what the manual says you should do next as step 2 or step 3. It's even more important as everybody talks about AI, right? AI is going to take over the world, right? It is important for all of our students to understand how to be part of creating new knowledge, because if all you're doing is repetitive stuff, you are at risk eventually of being, eliminated by what AI may become. And so the research is that opportunity for all our students to be involved, even if they're not we don't expect our students all go into research when they graduate, but just being part of that experience of being involved in understanding what's been done before, understanding how to ask questions that lead you to that new discovery is something we want all our students to be part of.
And there seems to be a renewed focus on partnering with the city of Lowell under your leadership.
Yeah, 2 reasons, right? One is we are a public research university. I feel, and I feel most of the campus feels very strongly, that means we should be part of helping the public around us. And it's important because we don't want to be one of those institutions that feels like it has to put a wall around itself. We want to be part of the community. And it's even more important for us because we are the University of Massachusetts Lowell. People's impressions of Lowell and whether they want to come to school there, whether they want to work there, whether they want to live there, it affects our ability to attract the best and the brightest students, faculty, and staff. 2, frankly, it helps us, and we hope the city feels the same way, to raise the profile of the city as a great place to be, whether you're a student or an employee.
And the university engages with the Lowell School Department and also with Middlesex Community College.
Yeah.
Why is it important to do that?
I don't think any of us wants to see a student who somehow falls off of that path and then ends up without a good education, without good career prospects. So we want to work together to make sure that the pathway is smooth and we don't lose anybody along the way. So much of that working together also means that we can help the students do it more efficiently, so that they're not taking extra classes because this course didn't include something that made it easy to transfer for transfer credit. And we've had a great partnership. Middlesex has been amazing in terms of, thanks to your help, in fact, we got some funding. We're working on life sciences training facility in the region that would help not only Middlesex and UMass Lowell, but also could be used by the VOTEX and the K through 12 as a place to get access to some of the equipment.
How about the East Campus? I know,
Yeah.
and the East Campus would be over towards where LaLasha Park is for
Yeah.
viewers that don't know, but I know there's been a lot of discussion about developing the East Campus, and I think the plans are ambitious, but can you talk about those?
Yeah, certainly. And it's certainly that we like to think of it as with LaLasha on one end and the Songus on the other. So it's sort of bookended by those two entities. But the amazing thing is, before when someone mentioned it, I think when you mention it, people go, there's 10 acres of land on East Campus, right? You go, where is that? And then you realize it's all these surface parking lots that are scattered throughout this, in random places. And the vision there is really one where we view it as a starting point. It's a catalyst to start to bring companies, good and high tech, right? Life sciences, computer, right? These types of companies to Lowell because they want to be near our students. And that ties back into then our students can do paid internships without having to get in a car and drive someplace. They don't have to take a semester off to do an internship. They can work and go to classes, right? So there's an advantage to our students for the companies being there. The companies are not just going to hire bachelor's, master's, or PhD, right? They're going to hire people from all range of educational experience. And we want to see that pathway so that someone can start at these companies at an entry level, keep getting education, whether it's a Middlesex or UMass Lowell or a continuous pathway, and move up in the company. So we see East Campus as a starting point to demonstrate for that first group of companies to come in. But then the best thing about it is that there's lots of other potential in the city and just around the city for more companies than to follow behind. We find that sometimes companies and developers, they're a little bit shy about being the first. But once we demonstrate that demand and the benefits to these companies, there's going to be a lot of other companies that want to move into the city and into this area.
110 Canal Street in the Hamilton Innovation District houses a number of university functions in one location. The Robotics Center, which is one of my favorites, is there. The Innovation Hub.
Who doesn't love robots, right? I mean, they're a lot of fun,
medical device development, and so on. Tell us about the research taking place there and what makes that location unique.
So let me start with the second part first. What makes the location unique? When we envisioned that building, it was about recognizing that a lot of the most interesting stuff happens across different disciplines. And so we purposely wanted to have the robotics, in this case, the flexible electronics and advanced textiles, a nod to the history of Lowell, and the medical devices all in one building, because we wanted there to be cross-fertilization between the people involved in those things, so that you have someone in M2D2, the medical device incubator, going, I need to find a different material in order to, embed the sensor so that it can be worn by somebody. And they can walk downstairs and talk to somebody who's an expert in how do you insert sensors and electronics into a textile material. You can, somebody at a company might be like, well, okay, I made one of these. I need to now figure out how to make 100,000 in an affordable way. And so they can come talk to the folks who are experts in the robotics and automation to understand what are the different options there. So it was always envisioned as a place where there could be a lot of very exciting crossover conversations happening and people coming from outside to visit one entity that then gets introduced to some of the other entities in the building.
I think it's one of the reasons why the City Council several years ago changed the name from the Hamilton Canal District to the Hamilton Canal Innovation District. Right?
And we hope, that building sort of, again, we've done a lot of what I would say are sort of pilot examples. So I think 110 Canal, much larger pilot example, when we did the Raytheon UMass Lowell Research Institute on a floor of a building in our campus, a pilot example of a company co-locating with our faculty and staff. These are all things where we've used that to work out the kinks, basically, and understand what works, what doesn't work. And East Campus really is then the next level of expanding that to a whole building, a much larger building than 110 Canal, frankly.
Right. Well, Lashapak is
Yeah.
important to a lot of people in the
Yeah.
city. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people were sorry to see the Spinners leave.
Yeah.
But is there work being done there, and what are the plans for the future use of Lashapak?
Yeah, the immediate work being done is simply to make it safe, frankly, to make it safe for our baseball team to play. We, of course, want to find other groups to work with us on filling and making sure it's a vibrant entity for the whole community. Because our team plays there, but it's only so many games a year. And so there's a lot of times when it's not occupied and it's not utilized, and we want it to be used, if we could, 365 days a year.
Right.
So we are looking for ways to partner to understand what's the best use of that, recognizing that it has to fit with our baseball team's need to be in that facility.
Where do you see the University of Massachusetts in Lowell being 10 years from now?
Higher ed these days is changing very rapidly, and you see it, right? There's a lot of, because of the pandemic, I think that accelerated it, because of what people are looking for in terms of higher ed is changing. And I think what we're trying to do now is very much position ourselves and communicate that to the outside world so that we will be in that leadership role 10 years from now in terms of students going, I want to go to UMass Lowell because I know I'm going to get that career-connected opportunity. I'm going to get connected to a great network of alumni. I'm going to be accelerated on that path to a great future. And we want, similarly, companies and government entities to say, I want to come to UMass Lowell because I can get great students. Those are the students we want because they're non-entitled, they're hardworking, they're great leaders, they're great teammates, right?
Yeah.
We want people to know. Already we hear from companies who say, I love hiring UMass Lowell students for all those reasons. We want a broader spectrum of companies and government agencies and nonprofits to know that same thing. And
Okay.
so that's all part of why we're trying to build together, right? The reputation of the city, the reputation of what kind of a educational experience you get if you come to UMass Lowell.
I want to thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you,
I just
Senator.
want to say, too, for myself, that I think I'm really happy to have you as the Chancellor. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I look forward to great things. And the other thing, too, I should say, is that it's easy to work with your administration.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and I think that's important. I think
Yeah.
it's important for my office, but it's
Yeah.
all, and for the the State House delegation, but it's also important for the city administration, I would
Yeah.
believe. So
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of
It's
the summer.
important to me too because we have a lot of challenges. We can only achieve the best that we can be if we all rowing in the same direction. So thank you.
Thank you. And so that will do it for this episode of the Beacon Hill Buzz. Until next time, this is State Senator Ed Kennedy with Chancellor Julie Chen saying, enjoy the rest of the summer. Take care.